Hi everyone, welcome back to ESLDRILL. In today's video, we are going to discuss a very simple topic, when. How to use when combining sentences. Shall we begin? Okay. Let's understand how when can be used. When can be used to say that one thing happens immediately after another thing. Okay, let's see the structure that we follow when combining sentences with. Okay, the first way is to use when at the beginning, and then we use the first action, and then we put a comma, and then we use the second action. What we have to notice here is when we begin the sentence with when, we need to put a comma. That is the same with every coordinating conjunction like if, since, because, as. Okay, now look at this sentence here, example sentence. When he entered the room, the boys ran to him. We used when at the beginning, and we used a comma here at the end of the first one, and then we used the second one there. The boys ran to him. When he entered the room, the boys ran to him. Now let's look at another way of combining sentences with when. See here, I have moved comma aside. It means we don't need to use comma. In fact, we should not use comma here. What is the structure that we need to follow here? First, we use the second action. We begin with the second action, and then when, and then the first action. So this is what you need to understand. When we use when in the middle, any subordinating conjunction in the middle, we should not use any comma. Look at this example sentence. The boys ran to him when he entered the room. So the earlier sentence we saw is exactly the same as this one. The boys ran to him when he entered the room. Or when he entered the room, the boys ran to him. Let's proceed. We have a pair of sentences here. Let's try to put these two sentences together using the word when. So let me read out the sentences here. Get ready. We will begin. Okay. The first one, get ready, is an imperative sentence. We begin with when. Actually, I am using the first way of doing it. When, and then we use the first action. Get ready. The first thing is get ready. But can we say get ready? When get ready? No. You need to use you here. So with imperative sentences, you cannot be seen, but it is understood. You need to think that you is there. So when you get ready, and we put a comma there, and we say, we will begin. There's a full stop at the end. When you get ready, we'll begin. Okay, how can we do it in another way? We begin with the second sentence. We will begin, and we put when here. We will begin when you get ready. We will begin when you get ready. When you get ready, we'll begin. We'll begin when you get ready. Okay, let's proceed to the next example. Again, we have two sentences. I turned the tap on. Nothing happened. Now, the first way is to begin with when. When I turned the tap on, and we put a comma there. When I turned the tap on, nothing happened. Notice the change I have made here. Nothing, N, is an uppercase letter in the question because it is at the beginning of the sentence. Now I don't need to do that. So I used lowercase letter N. Nothing happened, and there is a full stop at the end. When I turned the tap on, nothing happened. And another way is to begin with the second one. Nothing happened when I turned the tap on, full stop. And notice that there is no comma here. Nothing happened when I turned the tap on. Okay, I hope it is clear now. Let's move to the next example. You may face a problem. Call for help. You may face a problem. Call for help. Now the first way is to begin with when, and the first action is you may face a problem. When you face a problem. See here, I have avoided using may here because that is unnecessary. I used you may face a problem, call for help, just to introduce But here we don't need that. When you face a problem, comma, call for help. When you face a problem, call for help. Now the other way is to say call for help when you face a problem. Notice there is no comma here and there is a full stop at the end. Call for help when you face a problem. The next one. They offered him a job, he laughed at them. They offered him a job, he laughed at them. When, and the first one is they offered him a job. When they offered him a job, we put a comma there, and then he laughed at them. When they offered him a job, he laughed at them. And what if we begin the sentence with the second one? He laughed at them when they offered him a job. He laughed at them when they offered him a job. Both mean absolutely the same. Okay, let's move on. We have another model here. This when can be used to say that one thing happens while another action is in progress. See here, one action that finishes quickly and the other action that is in progress. For example, this one, an action happens or something happens while another is in progress. So what is the structure? When something happens, and then you have to use something that is in progress, an action which is in progress. Okay, look at this example to understand it. When I went upstairs, this is a finished action. When I went upstairs, she was singing. So this is action in progress. When I went upstairs, she was singing. Or you can say, she was singing when I went upstairs. Let's look at a few examples here. I was cooking, then the doorbell rang. We begin with when. When the doorbell rang, comma, I was cooking. You may ask why we cannot use I was cooking at the beginning. See, I was cooking is a progressive action, action in progress. And when we want to use I was cooking at the beginning, you need to use while, W-H-I-L-E. But we are not supposed to use while here. We are working with when. So there cannot be any continuous action here. So when the doorbell rang, I was cooking. Or you can say, I was cooking when the doorbell rang. I was cooking when the doorbell rang. Both are the same. Let's look at another one. This when can be used to say that one thing happens immediately after another thing. We have already discussed. So, you fell down. Did you hurt your ankle? You fell down. Did you hurt your ankle? When you fell down, comma, did you hurt your ankle? When you fell down, did you hurt your ankle? And what is the other way? Think of it. Did you hurt your ankle when you fell down? Did you hurt your ankle when you fell down? Right, let's move. He plays the piano. What do you do then? He plays the piano. What do you do then? When he plays the piano, comma, what do you do? So we need not use then here again, because the same purpose is served by when. When he plays the piano, what do you do? Or what do you do when he plays the piano? What do you do when he plays the piano? Right. Now let us see how we can rewrite if clause sentences with when. Okay. We don't have two sentences. We have a single sentence with if, and we will rewrite the sentence using when. There is something that you need to understand here. When can also be used to say that one thing always happens if something happens. It means they are always true. If one thing happens, the other thing automatically happens, without much change. In most other cases. Look at this here. If you need any help, ask me. If you need any help, ask me. Now how can we rewrite this using when? Same. You just need to replace if with when. When you need any help, comma, ask me. And what is the other way? Ask me when you need any help. Ask me when you need any help. When you need any help, ask me. Ask me when you need any help. Okay, let's look at another example. I see a doctor if I am ill. Or you can say, if I am ill, I see a doctor. I see a doctor if I am ill. Okay, when I am ill, comma, I see a doctor. But we don't say when I see a doctor, I am ill. Notice that. That is a completely different one. When I am ill, I see a doctor is the right way of saying it. Or maybe that might be true in some rare cases. Some people who have developed some kind of aversion to doctors, or maybe some kind of phobia, they can say, when I see a doctor, I am ill. Okay. When I am ill, I see a doctor. I see a doctor when I am ill. I see a doctor when I am ill. Okay, let's move on. We have another one here. If he gets sick, he takes rest. That is what always happens whenever he gets sick. So, you can say, when he gets sick, comma, he takes rest. When he gets sick, he takes rest. And how else can we say? Yes, he takes rest when he gets sick. He takes rest when he gets sick. Both are the same. Okay, we can use the past perfect to show the order of two past events. The past perfect shows the earlier action and the simple past shows the later action. Look at this illustration. Here is a timeline showing two past actions. So this is the timeline, and then you have two actions that happened in the past, and when we put them together using when, we can use past perfect with the earlier action, and with the later action we can use simple past. This is present. Just to indicate that it is present, I used it here. We will look at example sentences now. The thieves escaped, then the police arrived. Remember, we should not use then because we are using the word when, which serves the same purpose. Okay, what is the first way of doing it? Yes, beginning with when. When, what is the first action here? The thieves escaped, then the police arrived. The first action is the thieves escaped. So we have to use the thieves escaped in past perfect. So let's begin with the police arriving at the spot. When the police arrived, comma, now the earlier action, it must be in past perfect. The thieves had escaped. So I used had V3, past perfect tense. When the police arrived, the thieves had escaped. And we can also write this beginning with this thieves had escaped first. The thieves had escaped when the police arrived. The thieves had escaped when the police arrived. Okay, we'll look at another example. The film began, then we reached the theater. Again, we should not use then. Let's see. When we reached the theater, the film had begun. The film had begun. This is the earlier action. This is the action that took place first. And then this action took place. When we reached the theater, the film had begun. And we can say it this way as well. The film had begun when we reached the theater. The film had begun when we reached the theater. I hope you have learned how to use when to combine sentences. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.